up here. Timmy Legs has a bunch of basketball to talk, and we have got Damian Woody standing by. That's the actual Sistine ceiling in his background there. He had it moved from Rome. Jam-packed we are, and we begin as we must, Timmy Legs, with the redemption of the night. In Minneapolis, the Women's NCAA Championship, the coaches were ready, and so was the star. Aaliyah Boston for South Carolina would not be stopped.
No, absolutely not. Confident against this team. They took it to them from the beginning of the game and turned that defense up too. But look at Paige Beckers right here.
She's
Steph Curry, my goodness.
Whew. She did everything she could. UConn down by 8 at the half, but in the fourth quarter, too much South Carolina. This is Boston playing defense and turning it into offense. They won't catch Destiny Henderson.
Yeah, they were 5 up, chest to chest all night, and this, again, their defense is what triggered their offense the entire game. Gino Auriemma were pretty frustrated.
There it comes again. That's Boston. That's Henderson. Henderson with a career-high 26, and sweet redemption for Aaliyah Boston, who was named the most outstanding player of the Final Four as South Carolina wins the national championship. And afterward, Boston stopped to chat with our Holly Rowe.
How do you describe the sacrifice and the work that has brought you to this very moment?
Holly, it feels amazing, and honestly, I've been thinking about it since last season because everyone had a picture of me crying at the end of the Final Four, and they played everywhere as if that was some type of. But today we're national champions, and happy tears, Holly. Happy tears. So if you guys want to smile, here you go, and we're national champions.
A great moment that is. South Carolina, the 12th wire-to-wire AP #1 team to win the national championship. They finish with a program record 35 wins this year. They were a perfect 14-0 against ranked opponents. Congratulations, South Carolina, champions of the basketball world. Okay, now to the opposite end of the spectrum, Timmy Legler, and that would be the Lakers taking on the Nuggets. Anthony Davis in the lineup. LeBron James was not. And here's AD showing you some things only he can do.
It just makes you wonder what this would have looked like if he had been healthy all season. But AD, and he was gimping around a lot throughout the game, still looking at that foot a lot, but still very productive.
Russell Westbrook right before the half. We haven't seen a lot of that this year. He just always does look better when LeBron's not out there. Westbrook would finish with 27 with the Lakers down 1 at the half, and then the second half belonged to Nikola Jokic.
It did. He's one of the smartest players in the league, one of the most dominant, and there's really no answer for him on that end of the floor because he can score from anywhere on the court.
And he can give it up to teammates like Will Barton, who would knock that one down. Barton had 25. Jokic, 38 points, 18 rebounds, 6 assists. His MVP candidacy is very much in full effect. But the Lakers may very well now really be done. With that loss and a San Antonio win, the Lakers find themselves 2 games back of the Spurs for the final play-in spot. And I would add, functionally, it's even worse than that because they lose the tiebreaker. Here was Anthony Davis afterwards, Legs. What you were talking about, knows it is all but over and what could have been.
There's no moral victories in this league, especially with us. The whole world want to see us lose. I think the biggest thing that I think about personally is what we could have been. If we stay healthy all year, what could we have been? We put this team together. Look really good on paper, but we haven't had a chance to reach that potential with guys being, in and out of the lineup. So the most frustrating part about, this season is just not being sure of what we could have been.
I will remind you that when the season began in Las Vegas, the Lakers were the favorites to win the Western Conference. This obviously has been anything but what they imagined. So if we are pointing a finger of blame with maybe the final nail going in the coffin yesterday, who do we point it at?
Well, the top of the list has to be injuries. You have to start there because clearly that's what derailed their season, but it's also roster construction. The pieces didn't fit. Russell Westbrook really never got into any sort of rhythm playing alongside LeBron James. And then even when you look at the supporting cast, they went very old. They went with veterans, and when you do that, there's less emphasis on the regular season. There's just no way you're going to get a group of veterans to buy into an 82-game regular season, meaning that much. They assumed all along if they were healthy and they had 3-star players, no matter where they ended up in the seeding, they could make a run and get all the way to the finals and win a championship. Unfortunately, this thing just got out of control here in the second half of the year. And defensively, really, there was no culture there whatsoever because you can grind your way through injuries if you have a culture of getting stops and getting in people and being physical. That wasn't the case for the Lakers. People's eyes lit up when they saw the purple and gold jerseys in front of them. They just couldn't stop the ball. There was no rotation at the weak side, no rim protection. You could do what you wanted to against the Lakers. And ultimately, with the injuries, That's what took them down. And it's fitting we have white collars on today, Greeny, because we're going to administer last rites to this team. We're this close. And I don't have a dog in this fight.
Right.
If the Lakers are in it, it's probably better for us and what we do and what we talk about. But it's almost over, and we've been friends for 20 years.
Yes.
That will come to an end if you ask me one question about this team once they're officially eliminated. Once they're officially eliminated. Not yet. But it's close. And once it happens, I better not hear that word out of your mouth.
Then let me sneak one more in while I've still got you here. And that is, assuming, look, they have 4 games left this year. I think it's Phoenix, Golden State, Oklahoma City, and then Denver in that order. Let's assume they don't make some sort of miracle last run here. Do they need to trade Anthony Davis if they are going to try and put together a championship team around LeBron in the short term?
Well, they are absolutely going to explore that. Now, the question is, getting a buyer also. This is a guy that's hurt a lot. He's at a different stage of his career. And everybody wants to trade Russell Westbrook, too. Well, that's not the easiest thing in the world either when you make $40+ million at this stage of his career. So, yeah, it's easy to say that. To actually make it happen is a different story. Look, if you can sit there and let your mind wander for a second and think about if the guy can stay healthy, if LeBron James can be healthy next year, those two guys together, you remake the supporting cast. Are the Lakers right back in the mix again? That's what I think they tend to think. We'll see, though. But I think everything is open. They're probably going to look at Frank Vogel, too, which I think is completely unfair based on the injuries and the roster construction he had nothing to do with. Frank Vogel knows how to coach. He didn't forget that in 2 years. They just won a championship. But they're going to look at that as well. And he might end up being the fall guy. And, again, I think that would be completely unfair.
But the likeliest scenario is that he is not the coach anymore, yes?
Very good chance, yes.
Yeah, it feels that way. All right. I'm going to do my best to continue treading lightly around this topic with Legler as we continue. And Magic Johnson will offer his thoughts as this morning continues. In the meantime, to the NFL, our first stop, Kansas City, where Patrick Mahomes is preparing for life without Tyreek Hill. And he was talking about the process of trading Hill and what that Chiefs offense will look like in the future. And here's what he said, quote, "This is definitely going to be a transition year where we try to figure out how we're going to have success with this team. When I had all these offensive linemen come in last year, I knew I had to set an example of how we do things. I'll continue to evolve. I'll continue to be that example this year for the receiving room." And just an interesting thought popped into my head because we've had a lot of debate on the show over the last week or so about just how much they will miss Tyreek Hill. And so let me put it this way. Dominique, you played corner in the NFL. If for the last few years walking onto the field, you were scared to the level of 10 going up against them, the value of your fear walking on the field against them was a 10. What would it be now?
4? I mean, Tyreek Hill is terrifying. Like, he has it's not just the straight line track speed, like world-class track speed, which can turn any play into a touchdown. It's the short area quickness. You combine that with Patrick Mahomes' ability, there's no one in the league that's more likely to embarrass you on any given Sunday, Thursday, or Monday than Tyreek Hill in that offense. They did it week after week after week. And I can imagine, because I wasn't in the league while he was in the league, but I can imagine that a whole week's worth of preparation is about stopping that guy because he is the only guy on that team that can break you in one play. We saw it in a playoff game. The most unlikely scenarios. He did it time and time again. It wasn't Patrick Mahomes making miraculous deep down the field passes. It was short passes to Tyreek Hill and then him putting his 2 fingers up out of disrespect and utter speed to the end zone.
So, Damian Woody, let me ask it to you this way then. So out goes Tyreek Hill. In come Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Is this a team? Look, I know they weren't the 1 seed last year, but they've been the best team in the AFC for the last 4 years, let's say. Are they still?
I still think they're the best team in the AFC West. You know why? Because they got Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. You know, this is also a team that rebuilt their offensive line. So I think Andy Reid is looking at this situation saying, you know what? Yes, Tyreek Hill is the guy that keeps defensive coordinators up at night, but there's more than one way to skin a cat as far as winning football games. And when you have Patrick Mahomes, you can figure things out. Remember, Andy Reid is a coach that Andy Reid won three NFC championship games with Todd Pinkston and James Thrash as the leading receivers. So, Andy Reid is one of the best coaches this league has ever seen, and they still have a Hall of Fame tight end. They will figure this thing out. As long as you got Patrick Mahomes, you're still one of the best teams in the National Football League.
They also have a lot of draft capital, Dan Graziano, in a draft-rich or wide receiver-rich draft class. But I have gotten an inkling from you that they might have another surprise up their sleeve somewhere along the line. Could there be another move out there that the Chiefs might be considering making beyond drafting Tyreek Hill's heir apparent?
There are still